Welcome to more World of Warplanes content from this channel, and in this video we'll be looking at special pilots and their skills and whether they transfer to aircraft other than the ones they are nominated to fly. We'll be looking at the Spitfire Ia pilot Charles Donovan in the Vampire. The battle you're about to see is decent, but it's nothing special. The Vampire is a strong aircraft, the matchmaking was very favourable, and the map was suited to the aircraft's strengths. That's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to look at a special skill on a special pilot and whether it applies to other aircraft, and there's been some debate in the community as to whether this works or not. So what is this special skill? Well, the pilot in question is Charles Donovan, one of the so-called Dunkirk pilots, and he's assigned to the Spitfire Ia, which is where his skills are used to the full. And let me explain that, and let's just open up the box for the skill points. And the two special skills that this pilot have are this one, which is the Spitfire Mark 1A Master, and if you look at the pop-up you can see quite clearly it takes effect only on the Spitfire Mark 1A. So if you put this pilot in another aircraft, as I have here, this skill is not going to work. It replaces Protection Expert, so it's not as if it's occupying an important slot, and that's worth knowing. The skill of interest for this video, though, is the one that replaces Resilience, and in this case it's called Final Dash, and what it says it does is that it increases manoeuvrability and engine thrust by 10% when the aircraft loses 50% of its hit points. And as you can easily imagine, that's a mighty big advantage to have. It then goes on to say that the skill is activated automatically once per battle and remains effective until the end of the battle. Well, that's quite interesting, and you'll see in the battle replay that it's not entirely clear what's happening, and we'll discuss that during the course of the battle. Here we are on the Archipelago map, and it's the Stumbling Block variant. This variant has two command centres and two forward airstrips. If we look quickly at the command centre, it confers the standard 3 resources every 5 seconds, but it also calls in bomber flights to attack enemy sectors. The forward airstrip also confers 3 resources every 5 seconds, as does every sector of course, and it can be selected as a spawn point. But because both of them are in the corners of the map, that's not so useful. Tactically, the command centres are clearly the most important sectors on this map, and what often happens is that teams will end up possessing one command centre and one forward airstrip, and then it becomes a question of who can take the enemy command centre. You have a choice. If it's a tight game, you might opt to defend the command centre if you've got that sort of aircraft. If it's not a tight game, you're free to go off and assault the enemy command centre. So let's take a quick look at the order of battle, and as we can see immediately, I'm the only human player on my team in my Vampire, and on the enemy team there's a player in an unspecialised Su-9, and unless he's an excellent player, that is going to be a difficult battle for him. So what I'm going to do immediately is head for the most important sector on the map that's closest to me, and that's the command centre. I mentioned previously that this is favourable matchmaking, and I would expect that unless my opponent is a surprisingly good player, this is going to be a good battle for my team, and probably for me as well. Now, the point of this video is not the gameplay. I want you to try and keep your eye down here occasionally. I will call it out when the final dash icon appears and disappears and reappears. And here we go into the command centre, looking at the ADAs. And as is usual with World of Warplanes replays, it looks like you're shooting at anywhere other than the aircraft that you're aiming at. There's nothing I can do about that, I'm afraid. Now, I'd like to say that I was flying deliberately badly here so that I could lose 50% of my hit points. The fact is, I just wasn't flying very well. So I let an ADA get on my tail and do quite a lot of damage, which I shouldn't have. So we've secured the command centre. The enemy already has an airfield, and it looks like they're well on the way to capturing their command centre. But it's too early to be worried about those things. So I'm just working over the enemy heavy. I am glancing to the right to keep an eye on the approaching aircraft, and indeed it does start shooting at me. And there you can see the final dash icon appear. So in theory I've now got 10% more manoeuvrability and 10% more speed, and I can tell you subjectively that does appear to be the case. Now this skill is supposed to activate once a battle and last for the entire battle. I would have expected the final dash icon to remain there for the entirety of the battle. That's not what happens, as you'll soon see. So I've decided that as we have 2 sectors each, it's time to go and assault the enemy command centre. So I'm going to take out a ground attacker to make sure that can't go to my command centre. The other ground attacker is conveniently hanging around in the enemy's sector. So I dispose of him as well, and now the enemy sector is under serious threat of being taken, and I'm in a very good aircraft to make that happen. I wheel around to shoot an air defence aircraft. One more will do it. As ever, I'm pressing my X key to locate the next nearest target, which in a fighter is something that's very useful. That's bound to lock nearest target, and we have the enemy command centre, and already we're in a very strong position to win this battle. And I turn to find another target. And I very nearly get shot down by the P-80A. I'm lucky to survive. Again, I'm still flying badly, but I'm able to take him out. And in my victory I swoop around to look for another target. There he is. My tail is damaged, but with the final dash skill it really doesn't matter. I can still outmaneuver this Focke-Wulf 190. I come round to finish him off. Excellent job. What's my next target? Oh dear. That actually helps. That was a ram by my own bot, but that means I now have to respawn. And you're going to see something interesting when I do. So whilst we're waiting for the countdown on the respawn, we're having a look at some of the bots of my team defending our command centre, and here I am. And immediately I'd like to draw your attention to the fact there is no final dash icon. Now if that skill is meant to activate once per battle and endure for the battle, why is there no icon? Is the skill now deactivated? Or is the icon missing when it should be there? Another piece of poor flying coming up. I come in too close to the ground attacker and he manages to get his nose up and ram me. But that's also a help in this context, because now you can see, having lost more than 50% of my aircraft's health, the final dash icon has returned. So I can't say what's going on here. All I can tell you is that once the final dash icon is displayed, it definitely feels like this aircraft is more manoeuvrable and faster. I suspect it probably was more manoeuvrable and faster even when the icon wasn't displayed, having disappeared after I was destroyed earlier. But it's a little bit hard to be sure. In the meantime, the game has evolved into a situation where my team has both command centres and the enemy has both airfields. And that's a strong position for my team. The threat to this command centre is low, and the threat has now been entirely eliminated, leaving me free to go and take an airfield. So I begin to work over an enemy heavy that's trying to shoot down our bomber flight, and that kills enough to flip the airfield. We're winning 408 points to 264. Tactically, this game is probably already won, but that doesn't mean to say I'm going to give up on protecting our command centre. And the Junkers 288, a rear gunner, makes quite a mess of my aircraft. Well, that's not unusual for bombers and fighters. And the higher tiers you go, the less sense it makes to chase a bomber with a fighter. Coming down for the IL-10. I think about flying into the sea, but correct myself just in time. And then eliminate him as a threat. And the enemy succeed in taking the command centre, but unless something catastrophic happens, it's far too late for them. The game is already gone, and I'm now looking for my final pieces of damage and kills. P-80A obliges me by flying straight whilst I'm shooting at him, and the Hero of the Sky badge notification goes through. Quickly followed by the Winged Legend, and with a bit of luck the XP-72 will become my next victim. And he's down. The game is very close to being won. Tempest comes in to try and take me out. I dodge, swing round behind him, which is very easy with this extra skill in that activated, and make short work of the Typhoon. Please get out of the way, air defence aircraft. This is my kill.
I'm proud of you, pilots. Head back home.
And there's a useful haul of medals and a reasonable personal points total. To be truthful, I wouldn't have expected any less with such favourable matchmaking and a map that suits this aircraft. So let's review the results of this battle quickly. And if we look in the centre, we can see it's a 5 chevron battle, and that means it was the best grade for a fighter, a grade 1 fighter. Gross, I took home 337,032 credits, and there's a premium account bonus applied to that, as you can see. The other two items that are next in the list will also get bonuses. If we quickly pop into the message box, we can see that thanks to the RAM from my own bot, I had repair costs of 4,700, which will be taken off that 337,000 figure. If we look at base experience and its bonuses, that was 10,602. Free experience was 530 with a premium account bonus, and there were 2 tokens for this battle, one for the Hero of the Sky badge and one for the Winged Legend, and that was a ×2 multiplier battle, so there was a bit of extra bonus there. When we look at the personal score, we can see that all of the class specific missions were completed in full, and that's why it was a 5 chevron battle. Personal points of 17,060, 3 sectors captured, aerial targets destroyed 18, damage to aerial targets of 8,140, 29 critical hits, 660 capture points, and if we hover over that we can see that they were almost split equally, 320 points for defending, 340 points for attacking. And if we go to the team score, that's confirmation that that was enough for first place. The rest of my team were bots, and the player in the SU-9 on the opposing team, that's quite a tricky plane, and it's definitely not a carry plane. That's a pretty good effort in my opinion. So, to sum up, it looks as if Charles Donovan's special skill, Final Dash, works on aircraft other than the Spitfire 1A. I can tell you that the Vampire feels more manoeuvrable and faster when the skill activates, but it's not clear what the icon is telling us. As you saw in the battle replay, it came on, it disappeared, and then it came on again. And the skill is supposed to be activated once and then endure for the entire battle. And under those circumstances, I think the icon should be on all the time once the skill is activated. It's probably just a little bit of sloppy programming. If I've given you an idea and you're now thinking of putting Charles Donovan in an aircraft other than the Spitfire 1A, I should warn you that his special skills, Final Dash and Spitfire Mark 1A Master, are not 0-point skills. That is, when you start grinding Charles Donovan for the first time, you'll be working on his 6th skill, and what that means is you're going to take a long time before you can put another useful skill on the pilot. Bear that in mind. Now, one thing you may not have noticed is that if you put a special pilot in an aircraft, and this is true not just of Charles Donovan, he will be standing by your aircraft. That's a nice little touch. This look at the special skill Final Dash arose from another video in the works, one outlining the interaction of modules, equipment and pilot skills. Look out for that, it's coming soon. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this video and that you return to see more of my content. Until then, this is Royal Flying Corps signing out.